Welcome to the Broken Graciously podcast, where we challenge the culture of brokenness by exchanging beauty for ashes holistically with candid conversations, transparency, and practical tips. I am your host, Tanisha B. Lester, lovingly known as Coach T. I'm a Master Certified Life and Business Coach, Certified Christian Coach, Certified Pastoral Counselor, Certified in Women's Entrepreneurship, best-selling author, and speaker. This season is season 3. Welcome. We are tackling this season the issue of breast cancer and how survivors have navigated through their diagnosis, treatment, and life after diagnosis. So sit back, enjoy, be sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the podcast so that you're getting the notifications when new episodes drop weekly. Again, this is the Broken Graciously podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to season 3 of the Broken Graciously podcast. This is Broken Graciously Pretty in Pink. This month, we're celebrating Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I have a bunch of guests coming on, but today's guest is Anitra Bay. So first, let me give you this disclaimer. This is for education and awareness purposes. We are not making any claims. We're not doctors. This is not medical advice. Please seek medical advice from your practitioners, from your specialists. But we just want to give awareness and shed light on the things that we women are going through as it pertains to breast cancer. So Anitra is 44 years old. She grew up in West Atco, New Jersey. She currently resides in Clementon, New Jersey. She has 3 children, 2 of which are twins. She's a grandmother. And in 2022, she was diagnosed with stage 3C triple negative breast cancer at the age of 42. So let's welcome Anitra into the room and let's have a good old conversation. You know how we flow in Broken Graciously. So welcome, Anitra.
Thank you for having me, Tanisha.
I appreciate you coming on. When I put it out there that I wanted to do this, that I wanted to celebrate breast cancer survivors, breast cancer warriors. Nisha was the first one to say, I'm coming. So I appreciated her enthusiasm and her willingness, most importantly, because I think there is a big stigma still that exists in the brown and Black community or the colored community. Concerning breast cancer, like we still don't necessarily want to talk about some things. You'll still find in some families where it's still kind of kept hush hush, which in this day and age you would think it wouldn't be that way. But yeah, so tell me about your diagnosis. Tell me like all of those things. Let's get into this conversation.
Okay, so I was diagnosed in January 2022 after having a mild heart attack. They did a CT scan and they found a mass in my right breast and in my right armpit. After further testing, they found out that I had the breast cancer in my lymph nodes by my collarbone. So that pushed me to stage 3C, and the diagnosis was triple negative, which means that my breast cancer is not hormone driven. So my breast cancer is not hormone driven, so it's not like a targeted treatment for triple negative breast cancer women. So it's just different. It's just different.
So let me give you some little bit of information. So triple negative breast cancer is one of the most aggressive forms of the disease, and it accounts for 20% of all breast cancers. This one is there's a lot with this one. So
it is.
I'm reading from some websites to give this information because I'm not familiar with it at all. And it's disproportionately affects younger women, especially women of color. It also accounts for a higher percentage of breast cancer deaths with a
Mm-hmm.
higher rate of reoccurrence. So this was a serious form that she had, just to give you
Yeah.
some context of what she's talking about. So you said it was in your underarm, your collarbone, as well as in your breast. That's a lot. So when you got the diagnosis, like what were your first thoughts?
So when I got my diagnosis, I received them through my chart. Isn't that great? My chart, instead of the doctor telling me
The
I
downfall of these
received,
electronic things, right?
yes, technology. So I received my results online, and I was like, first I was like, oh my God, like what in the world? Like, why me? Why would I be the one to have this diagnosis? Like, I've had a lot of underlying health issues. So then I prayed. That was first, I was very upset. I was scared. And then I prayed. I got my results on a Friday, and I prayed, and I just had this like calming over me. And then that was it. And I was like, it is what it is. Like when you pray about it, you just let it go. So I prayed, I let it go, and I don't let it worry me so much. I don't let it
Which is
worry me.
key, because, with any disease process, the more you stress, the more you worry, you kind of further those things along with that extra stress on your body. So that made sense, but I'm glad you were able to kind of have that moment of prayer and go back to
Mm-hmm.
your roots, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes we immediately jump to anger, not that you didn't
Mm-hmm.
have any of those feelings, or even not that they weren't valid for you, but it's important to remember to, okay, feel the anger, feel the disappointment, feel being upset,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to go to the ultimate source, because that's where your strength is going to come from, even outside of people, even outside of self.
Absolutely.
So after you got that, like, how did you break it to your kids, your mom? Like, how did, I know that had to be difficult.
Um, so because I've had already a history of different things happening, so I've been having different things happening since 2018. So I was just like, they found the mass. I have to get, um this is before I knew like the staging and everything else. And I just told them like, we just have to deal with it. Like I have the lump, I have breast cancer, I have to do treatment, chemo, I have to do surgery. Like those are the things that come with having breast cancer. That's how I looked at it. Like the treatment portion is like breast cancer. Like that's what you have to do. You do these different things. So I just looked at it head on and told them head on. I never hid my results or anything like that from them. I just, kept it moving.
Okay. So oftentimes we think about it, was there or is there a history of breast cancer even in your family? Because sometimes, it comes down that way, and sometimes, you're just the only one.
There is no breast cancer history in my family. I also was offered the genetic testing, which I did. They did 38 different genetic testing, and everything came back negative. So
That's good.
there was nothing there.
Okay. That's good. Um, so when it came time for you to think about your treatment, think about the surgery, was it a difficult decision to make whether or not you were going to have a lumpectomy or a mastectomy?
Uh, it froze for a second. Can you see me? Okay, I can see you. There. So for lumpectomy, you have to be in an earlier stage, like a stage 1 or stage 2. With stage 3, I believe it all depends. But I was stage 3C grade 3, which means my tumors grow faster and spread faster. So a lumpectomy was not even an option for me. So it was offered. They did suggest initially to do just a single mastectomy and not a double. but I was on the higher end. My percentage for reoccurrence was like 97%. So to me, it was like, just do the double mastectomy. So then that way, that's like one less thing I'll have to worry about. And the doctor was happy and she was in agreement to do the double mastectomy. But it wasn't a hard decision, especially because of the aggressiveness of the type of breast cancer I had.
Imagine for some that would be difficult, but because we're so used to attaching our feminism to our breasts or to our aesthetic, right? So
Right.
to know that the aesthetic portion of me is going to change drastically, like that can kind of play with the psyche a little bit.
It can. It after the fact, like when I had it, oh, I was totally fine with having my double, totally fine. Fast forward to now, getting dressed, finding outfits, and then my hair grew so I can get braids. So that gives me a little bit, to me, hair gives you a little bit more, for me personally, gives me more femininity.
Right.
I had breast burns
The
on my
scarring,
face,
right.
chemo that are still brown. So I have more than one issue going on. So now when I get dressed up, now it bothers me because I also was denied for a double mastectomy. So I don't even know. I mean, not a double mastectomy, for a reconstruction, breast reconstruction, because I have so many other underlying health issues. So yeah. So initially I was fine. I was up in the hospital. I was smiling. I was laughing. They were like, what is going on? I asked the doctor to take a picture. She's like, I've never had anybody ask me to take a picture post-surgery. I'm like, I want to see, but yeah, afterwards, it bothers me more now than it did initially.
So given that you said the first, let's back up a little bit. You spoke about the burns on your face from the chemo. Does it just solely, because we're, if we're thinking about it, right, for somebody that's listened, okay, she had chemo like in her breast and her arm area, like why would she have burns on her face? So can you just walk us through why you have burns on your face, or did you have burns like in other areas as well?
No, because the chemo, I still have my chemo port. So the chemo port goes, and your chemo goes through, my chemo went through my port. So it just goes throughout your body. But it is like one of the rare symptoms that you can get from the particular chemo, from the Taxol that I was receiving. I did Taxol, carboplatin, and Keytruda, which is immunotherapy, which also brings out other things in your system. But one of the rare issues is the chemo burns, and I have no idea why, but I had it all over my forehead, and my doctor was like, I've never seen anybody have that reaction. So she ended up calling the pharmacist, and the pharmacist was like, yeah, that is a rare
Okay.
sign for the chemo.
Okay. So how have you been coping with that? Like, have you tried? I can't imagine like what you could try. Like
So
some natural remedies to kind of try to get
the
rid of the
doctor just said
hyperpigmentation.
moisturizer.
Okay.
The
So
doctor
that's
said
been
just
helping.
the dermatologist. I went to the dermatologist, and he said just to moisturize, but it's not going anywhere.
Right.
It's like hard. It's like rough. He told me don't do anything with it except for doing a moisturizer. So don't do any like fancy treatments or anything. So September next month, I did my last chemo session September 3rd yet last year, or September 1st last year. So it'll be almost a year, and it still hasn't come off. But
Dissipated. Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So here's a question, because I've seen plenty of dermatologists, because I get scarring, or they call it seborrheic dermatitis, that'll come down like on towards my forehead with the with the dandruff and all of that, and it'll flake
Right.
off and then just discolor like around my face. I've gone to plenty of dermatologists, Most often they're Caucasian. Have you tried one that's looks like us?
I have not, because it's hard to find one.
They are, but I'll tell you, there's one in Philadelphia, and he was downtown. Um, I want to say his name was Dr. Young. Check him out. And there was another one over there, but she was a female. I would encourage you to see one that's familiar
Yeah.
with your skin, because a lot of the things, like I had a bump in the top of my head and went to the dermatologist. They couldn't figure out what it was. So I found someone that was more familiar with us. But even still, by the time I found someone, now there's like a little bald spot at the top of my head. But had I found the right person at the right
Right.
time,
Right.
it could have been resolved because it was resolvable and I wouldn't have had a spot in my head. Um, so I encourage you to find someone that's more familiar with our skin, because that can be a big difference.
You're right.
So I would encourage you to do that. So it's just so many questions just going in my head. Um, so we talked about the lumpectomy versus the mastectomy. Let me pull up some stats, because I think it's important to just give some stats, some education. So of course we talked about that it's the most common cancer in the United States except for skin cancer. It's a 30% or a 1 in 3 chance of all new female cancers for the year will be breast cancer. There's about 297,790 new cases of invasive breast cancer that will be diagnosed in women, period. Then another stat is there's 55,720 new cases of ductal carcinoma that'll be diagnosed, and 43,700 women will die from breast cancer. That's a lot of people dying, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about it, with the advances from now to when they first discovered breast cancer, like, is that a realistic number? I would be interested in finding that out. Like, is that,
I would be
has it
there.
dropped any significantly?
They have, well, I think it will eventually drop because they are, well, this is for the hormone driven breast cancers. They are even finding, they are doing different trials right now for preventative, I can't, I'm having a, my mind is going blank.
We're gonna talk
Um,
about that too.
yeah, because when they say chemo brain, like chemo brain is so real, but they're doing a lot of new advances for hormone driven breast cancer. So I think the number will actually start to drop eventually, because the trials are in place, taking place right now. But for triple negative, they're the only thing change with triple negative is the immunotherapy. The immunotherapy, the Keytruda that I was taking, was only approved by the FDA in like 2021, I believe. And I
Yeah,
got
that's
diagnosed in
recent. That's a
2022.
recent one. Right.
So that's the only thing with triple negative. Like, we don't have those extra medications or those extra things that can help us, you know, stay alive longer, except for the immunotherapy, because the life expectancy for somebody with triple negative, who like for me, who had the later stage, is like 5 years. It's like not a long time.
Right.
It's not a long
Well,
time, but
first
I
of
think
all,
that,
we gonna believe,
yeah, yes,
we're gonna believe
yes,
that God can
absolutely,
supersede what that paperwork says, those statistics say. That's first thing.
yes,
So
absolutely,
we're gonna start there. Um, so
absolutely.
let's go ahead and backpedal to this chemo brain, because so I personally, there's no one in my family that I'm aware of that has had it, that I had to be in close proximity to or had to help take care of or any of that. However, my girlfriend did have it 2 years ago. Yeah, I want to say
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago. she was diagnosed. Now, don't ask me which one or I don't remember any of that. All I knew was my girl got it. We need to be positive. I need to be there for whatever I can do. That's. But she talks about the chemo brain a lot. So
Yeah,
let's go ahead and dig into that a little bit because people think is you know people will automatically just discount what you're saying. Number one, if they've never gone through
if
it,
mm-mm,
and two, it's like, oh, you just making an excuse for why you're forgetting
no,
things or you're not doing things or
no.
like whatever. So go ahead and speak to that.
It's a real thing. It is I forget things all the time. Like mid sentence, if I get a phone call or get distracted, boom, thought gone. Whatever I was about to do, thought process gone. Gone. It is real. It is real.
So how have you tried to combat or help yourself in that area?
So I've tried to write notes, and now I've been doing more calendar reminders.
Okay.
Calendar reminders I just started doing. Now I've always kept my appointments on a calendar,
Okay.
but I wasn't doing like an actual calendar reminder
Okay.
because I've missed appointments because I've forgotten. Even though they've called and they've confirmed, I've still forgotten same day, not just because I didn't want to go, but because I truly forgot. Like it's a real thing.
Yeah, that capacity just isn't there. I mean, I'm laughing in jest, but it's real and I get it. And it can be frustrating.
It's very
Um
much so.
that's the part I kind of sympathize with how frustrated you get. Has it impacted other areas of your life like with the kids or are you working or like what are you
I'm
doing?
not working, and that is the thing. I'm like, so I was actually given permanent disability last year because of my diagnosis and all of my health issues, but I want to go back to work. But the only thing is, I can't, like, it's very hard for me to remember. And some days I just be like, is this really like going to be the rest of my life? Like, it really feels like I have an older person's brain or mind because I literally can forget at the drop of a dime. I can mid sentence, I can forget, and I just keep thinking. And people were asking me, were telling me, suggesting, like, go to school. I'm like, I can't even remember my day to day shopping list. Could you imagine me trying to retain information in a textbook?
Now I'm going to give you a little information here. So at Camden County, there's a department for those that are disabled
Really?
that you can tap into that will help you if you want to go to school.
Oh, I did not know that.
See, knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. I'll be spreading my knowledge all around too. So thank you for that gem.
You can tap into them, especially because you've been given the permanent disability not diagnosis, but all of the other benefits that come along with being approved. You can tap into that department. Now I'm not quite sure what the department's name is, but look at
Yeah, I'll.
disabilities or like it'll say something to that effect, that you can tap into. So if that's something you want to do, I wouldn't necessarily allow that hiccup, because that's what it is, right? It's a hiccup
Right.
to hinder you from doing something that you want to do. Because the chances of okay, this the coach part kicking in.
Right.
What are you passionate about? Because I remember, so everybody, you're listening in, but I've known Anisha for years. Um, just by virtue of my aunt and her mother being great friends, and we
Mm-hmm.
were around each other and in proximity for quite a while. So I know that she likes kids and
Yeah.
she's done things with kids for majority of her adult life. So I know that's a passion for her. But what I'm going to ask you is, what is your passion Is that solely your passion, or has your passions shifted?
My passion is still children, elderly, people with disabilities, kids with disabilities. Like my passion is seniors, kids, and kids or seniors with disabilities.
Oh, by you thinking of something that you could go to school for, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it may take you a little while by virtue of the chemo brain. But here's what I know, that the more you work your brain, you're creating new neural pathways, which is digging deeper trenches in your memory. So by you doing that, you're creating muscle memory. So you'll begin to remember more things, and as the more you exercise it. But if
Exercising
you
my brain.
don't exercise it right, that can continue longer than it possibly needs to.
Okay.
So you
So
want
that's
to exercise your brain. Yeah, you want to do different things. You want to create new pathways. And in saying that, whatever your passion is, you find something that you can go to school for. You don't necessarily have to go in the workforce. You can work from home. You can create your own business and do your own thing. Because wasn't that pretty much what you was doing anyway?
yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
exactly what.
So cancer doesn't have to be a sentence of death where it kills your passions, your purpose, your likes. It doesn't have to be any of that. And you've already proven it. You've
Right.
already beaten what the cancer tried to do.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So why would you allow it to do anything further and keep you from pursuing the things that you really want to pursue?
You're absolutely right. That's because it's an actual fear.
Right.
It's an actual fear. So the
The
funny thing
same
is I
way you
went
was
to
fearful of that cancer diagnosis, if you can beat that, the fear of that.
yeah, absolutely you're right. You are absolutely right.
I mean, let's think about it. The fear of, so you were saying it was fear. So what is the fear?
The fear is not remembering and failing because I can't put my concentration level is horrendous. The memory is horrendous. So my
Right.
fear is starting and failing and stopping or not being able to make a grade because of the fact that I can't sit there and put my thoughts onto paper. It takes me a very long time to sit and to fill paperwork out because my concentration level is just gone.
So there's a system of devices all the time that are being created for all of that. So that's and here's my thought process. My thought process is fear is a natural instinct, right? It's a natural feeling, it's a natural emotion. We can either allow the fear to stop us or allow that fear to
Private.
push us forward, right? So though it's a valid fear, there's all of these things out here that can assist you with knocking down this fear, overcoming this fear, and doing what you want to do. There's ways that they can teach you to remember. There's various pneumatic devices. Like there's things that can help you with all of that, like the concentration, right? So it's no different than somebody with ADHD.
True.
You have some high functioning ADHD patients, right? They're still doing all of the things, going to school, working, and holding down jobs. It's not much different.
No, you're right. So the funny thing is, I went to go see one of the counselors at the hospital, and I was saying to her that I had an actual fear, actual anxiety of going back to the workplace, going back to school. And do you know what her advice was?
I'll do it.
Because she only had me for 8 sessions, she said, I think you need long-term therapy and I think you need to go find someone long-term instead of just encouraging me the same way you just encouraging me. She told me I need to see a long-term therapist because she only could do a couple of sessions for me.
You know what that was about? It was
I'm
about her
like,
pocket more than the patient.
probably. But it was a big difference because I was explaining to her that I had this anxiety, that I had this fear of going back to work.
Mm-hmm. Hey, there's a couple acronyms I use for fear. So number one, you can face everything and run.
Good one.
Or now I just forgot what the other one was. Now I feel like I got chemo brain, but um like that's the major one. So we just gonna go with that one. Face everything and run. We allow fear to keep us stuck and stagnant all the time. I did a whole podcast on it. It's just a matter of how we utilize that energy of that fear. Then you have to ask yourself, is this realistic? So fears come up. We get fearful because we think our safety is in jeopardy, or somebody's going to harm us, or like we're going to harm somebody else, right? Those are realistic fears. But when you think about the other fears, or if you ask yourself, how realistic is this, and is there a way that I can overcome it, or is there something out there that can help me to do better with it?
Right.
About all of that, I just gave you a major resource. So yeah, you got to find the right people and talk to the right people.
You absolutely right. Yeah, you absolutely right. Big difference. Big difference in encouragement and what she told me, which was not useful.
So that I'm not by no means saying that counseling won't be useful. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because I believe in counseling. As a coach, I believe in going to counseling. I believe in coaching. I believe in all of that and all of it simultaneously, because there's different points that you need different things. So counseling helps you to deal with the past or the current situations that you're struggling with. And it's important to be able to talk all of those things out and come up with devices or mechanisms, healthy coping mechanisms to help you overcome those things. It's the same thing with coaching, but coaching helps you to go further and get to the future of what you're trying to do. So all of that works, and I totally believe in that. And then once the things from the breast cancer start coming to you that you may have felt that you were good with before, some of those things may surface, and you're going to need to talk them out. So that's absolutely important. But it doesn't have to be a sentence where you just do nothing for the remainder
Right.
of life. Yeah. So, as far as race, right? So the median age at diagnosis is slightly younger for Black women, 60 years old, compared to white women, 63. Black women have the highest death rate from breast cancer, which we just talked about. Um, and we also have a higher chance of developing breast cancer before the age of 40 compared to white women. Every age, Black women are more likely to die and any other race, whether it's whites, Asians, Pacific Islanders. That's a lot. That's
That's a lot.
that's
But I do think that we don't like to go to the doctors and get checked. We don't want to go to our doctor's appointments. But what I've learned being diagnosed at stage 3, that it could have been prevented if I was doing self breast exams, because self breast exam, if you do your own self breast exam, you can find a lump at an earlier stage than waiting for you to be 40, because it's a lot of women who are diagnosed in their 20s, in their 30s, and this false number that you should only get a mammogram after 40 is bizarre. But I think that it's a lot of women that are scared to even know, or don't take time to go to the doctors and make the appointments, or think about doing breast exams, which they're very important, because you can find that the earlier stage you get diagnosed, the better it will be able to save your life. Early diagnosis really actually does save your life.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is women are caregivers.
Mm-hmm. And
So
don't take care of
most
themselves.
often, right, you care for everybody else, doing everybody else's bidding and all of that. But when it comes down to ourselves, we always put ourselves last.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't always serve us because we just think about, all the things we have to do versus I need to take care of myself because if I don't take care of myself, then I can't take care of these kids or this husband or my
Mm-hmm.
mom or we can't do those things if we don't take care of ourselves first. So the last stat I'm gonna just throw out here is there are more than 3.8 million breast cancer survivors in the United States. So it's a good thing that they're being treated and those that have actually completed treatment. So that's amazing. But we still need that number to go up a little higher. So
Mm-hmm.
these all of these stats you can find on the American Cancer Society webpage at cancer.org. So I just wanted to where I actually got the statistics from. So you don't think I'm pulling them out of thin air, which I'm not. Because I don't have stats like that. I don't like stats. That's not my favorite subject. But it's important still to kind of give context to all of the things that we talk about. So is there I know that you've gone through all of this, you've come through the treatment, you've rang the bell, there was a celebration. What was the celebration you had not too long ago?
Um, in April for my birthday.
No, it was after that because I saw it on
July
Facebook. I don't
July
know.
3rd, I finished. July 3rd, I rang the bell because I finished my immunotherapy.
Was it? Okay.
Mm-hmm. I finished
Absolutely.
my immunotherapy.
So congratulations on that
Thank
as
you.
well. So how has all of this shifted you into because I know we talked about you having a passion for kids and elderly and those with disabilities. I imagine that now you have a passion for other breast cancer survivors or other breast cancer patients.
Oh, absolutely. I flood my social media with my whole process. I believe in getting the information out there because I feel like if I had somebody on my Facebook page or on my social media letting me know about breast exams, mammograms, their whole process, their diagnosis, I feel like I would have been more aware. I only see people on Facebook talking about breast cancer in October. Like breast cancer is an everyday thing, 365. It's a lifetime for some. But I only seen it in October. So my thing is I want to make self breast exams normal. Normalize doing self breast exams once a month. Normalize telling your family members to do self breast exams. I tell everybody I come into contact with through the toll booth, how you doing? Don't forget to do your self breast exams. And usually they'll say, like, even the other day, I was coming back from Atlantic City. Don't forget to do your self breast exam and get your mammogram. And the girl said, you know what? I was thinking about doing it. She said, but I'm so scared. I said, I just rang the bell July 3rd. Don't be scared. Early diagnosis is key. And she was like, you know what? I'm going to make my appointment. I'm going to make my appointment just for you. So I believe in telling everybody, I don't want to keep these jewels that I've learned to myself. I feel like if I can save a life, help guide the person through what they've went through, I think that's key. Like, don't keep the information to yourself. I found different websites that help different people, and I send them to whoever I feel like needs them, or if somebody reaches out to me. Like, I feel like don't keep the information to yourself. Like, you can help somebody else. I believe in giving back. Like, you dropped the jewel on me for the disability for school. I can use that, and I can go to my friends who are breast cancer survivors who are on disability that I can say, you can go to the school and get assistance. You know, like, I believe in telling my story, telling my story, telling them what I went through during chemo, what I went through during radiation, what I went through immunotherapy. Like, I don't want you to be me. I want you to be able to go ahead if you have cancer, I want you to be able to get diagnosed at stage 0, because there is a stage 0, there is a stage 1. Go get diagnosed early. That way you don't have to, because some options you don't have to do chemo if it's caught early. You can just do the lumpectomy and do radiation. Like, there's other options if it's caught in an early stage. You don't have to do a whole double mastectomy or go through chemo and everything else. Like, save your life. Do, prevent having to deal with over a year worth of chemo, a chemo pill, radiation, and doctors, and unlimited scans, and unlimited blood work, getting your blood work done. I don't even know. I can't even count how many times I had to get blood work done. Like, it's not fun.
I'm being a
It's not
pincushion.
fun.
Not at all. I think we talking about the self breast exams. You're the second person that I've heard that found the lump under their underarm, because they
Yes.
don't talk about that. Like,
No.
they always just tell you to do your self breast exam, but they don't tell you to check under your arm and make sure there's no lumps under your arm as well. Now, I know sometimes you can get lumps from just by fact of the deodorants that we wear and utilize. And it's important to know what's in the deodorants that we're using, because sometimes I imagine that would kind of lead to
Different
things.
things.
Yeah. And but if that lump is persistent, like if you feel the lump, whether you didn't clean carefully and just get all the deodorant off, or you put too much on, and I mean there's plenty of ways as to why you can get those lumps under your arm. But if it's a consistent lump and it wasn't there before and it's still there, like, get it checked out, because it is in close proximity. But again, we don't think about checking under our arms because they just say check the breast. So that's I think that's an important fact to put
Mm-hmm.
out there, because again, you're the second person I've heard say that, and
Yeah.
that's where they found it at. But
And the thing is, when I found my lump underneath my underarm, because I got not regular on a regular basis, but once in a while I got like the ingrown hair or whatever underneath my underarm. But this just was so big, and it was October, months prior, because it was January that I got the scan for my heart and the masses were found. But it was October when I went to the doctor's, like, my arm. And what the doctor told me was, she said, it's just an infected cyst. She said, if it keeps happening, go see a dermatologist. But she never once said, maybe we should get it maybe you should go get a mammogram, maybe you should go get a scan, maybe you should get an ultrasound. So I always encourage people that if they find a lump underneath their underarm or even in their breast, and the doctor is saying it's a cyst, to go see a breast doctor. Like, I never even knew a breast doctor actually existed until my diagnosis, because I never thought past, you go to your GYN, and the GYN sends you to get a mammogram unless your family doctor sends you to get a mammogram. I never knew a breast doctor even existed until diagnosis. So I encourage people to see a breast doctor and let the breast doctor guide you to where you need to go. So do not just take the doctor's advice that's saying it's just a cyst, because look at me. It was not a cyst, and mine was fast growing. Mine was very fast growing. Very fast growing.
yeah, that misdiagnosis it can
It
be
affects your
real.
life.
Yeah,
Yes.
it can be real. I just went through a situation with that exact same thing, not the same area, but like, it's important for us to, one, know our body. So you may be afraid to touch your body to actually see if you'll find something, but you know your body better than a doctor would. So you would know if this is something that's persistent, or something that just occurred recently, or I've had one before, but this one feels different. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So it's important for you to not diagnose, but for you to advocate for yourself, to be persistent and getting
Absolutely.
what you need to get. Because I was told, like, I have fibroids. I was told they weren't growing. Okay, but like all of the symptoms are there. Like my cycle is just different, is not like, so I went to another doctor. It was important that I went to another doctor because now I've gotten different scans and different diagnostic tests done. And just on her palpitating it, she could tell me, like, oh, it's about the size of this.
Wow.
Versus this other doctor who told me they're not growing. And
Wow.
that's also the difference between having a male doctor and a female
The
doctor.
female doctor.
So is important to,
To
I don't
advocate for
know.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I've met women online via different Zooms because I'll join a breast cancer Zoom in a heartbeat. I don't have to know nobody, but education is key. But I've seen a few women who found their lumps during breastfeeding. And doctors will say it's a clogged milk duct. It's a clogged milk duct. But without finding out further information. So then that means the longer you wait, the bigger your mass is going to spread, or it's going to spread elsewhere. So when my younger cousins had babies, I tell them all, if you find a lump in your breast, do not allow your doctor to say it's just a clogged milk duct. Go get it checked out by a breast doctor.
Be safe than sorry. To
Yes.
know and spend the copay or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
is better
Whatever
to
that
have
be.
that. Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean that when you think about it, right? It may be a lot in that moment depending on what your financial situation is, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to what it could be. If you got to go through
Exactly. Your
chemo, you
life.
got to go through radiation, you got to go through immunotherapy, you got to go through, blood work and the sickness and getting a port and like all of those things. That's a drop in the bucket. It
Yes.
really is.
Absolutely.
So finally, um, how important has it been for you to seek support groups or counseling? And then the other thing I want to talk about is your support system, because
Mm-hmm.
that is key, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, to coming out with a healthier and a more positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So first, I know we're dealing with the keyword break, so let me go back and give you the first question instead of rapid firing these questions at you. The first question is, how important has support groups or finding different things been to you, and are there like some like universal ones that someone anywhere can kind of tap into?
Yeah. So initially I didn't try to seek any support groups. I had my friend Stacy. She is also a breast cancer survivor. We went to high school together, and when I posted my story, she sent me a message and was like, "I have this great foundation that I work with. Like, we help with different things." And I'm like, "I'm good. I don't need no support group. Like, I'm fine. Like, I got a great support system. I felt good at the time, and here I am now involved with the same support group she was offering me help with last year in January. Last year in January, she was helping me with the support, with asking me if I wanted to help, if I needed help that she was offering. And then here goes, I met the foundation owner, and I believe it was March. She had a breast cancer event in March, and I went there. And now, like, I was talking to her about different issues that was going on, and she right away started helping me with different things. And now I'm like, if I you think of support just with like a support group, like a structure, but you don't think about groceries, you don't think about help books, you don't think about like just care packages. Like, that wasn't my thought when she initially came to me. I'm thinking like an actual, like, we're sitting in a circle type support group. I'm like, that ain't my thing. That's not me. But now I know the support help that she was offering and that other groups offer is different. It's a different type of support, which a lot of people need, from financial to, they even have someone helping me cut my grass every couple of weeks. A lawn company comes now and cut my grass ever since they've asked me, like, what do I need? So getting involved in different foundations, different support groups, local and globally, because a lot of them offer, like the bigger names offer online support groups. They offer online Zoom sessions for like yoga, meditation. Some offer different counseling services. So it's definitely worth it to seek out if you feel like you need, like, you may not even feel like you need it, but they, like, that foundation even sends like little thank you cards, little I hope you're doing well, like just to check in. And when I get the little cards, I'm like, oh, this is cute. Like, they would like
Encouragement. Yeah.
it's encouragement. Like,
Right.
it's good. So it's important to be involved in a support group, whether it's globally online via Zoom or if it's local to your area. So
The last question is, how important was your core support group, your core caretakers?
it was so important for me because they really carried me through. Like, they legit carried me through. Like, from my Facebook family and friends, who some I know and some I've never met a day in my life, but because I'm so vocal and open on Facebook, I'm talking about, it took me like almost 8 months to get disability, and they really carried me through with like food. I had friends and family dropping food. I had my mom and my aunt coming over, helping me with different things around the house. It's very important. I had people blessing me financially. Like, here's gas. I have a friend in Florida. Her name is Kim. I met Kim on Facebook. We ain't met a day in our life. And she would send me money for gas. And she would put in the little cash app, go get gas. Because I used to complain about how much gas costs. Like, gas is high to be traveling to Camden to the doctor 3 times a week. Like,
Okay.
gas was killer. So those little things, like, it was, I mean, was lucky. I'm not lucky. I was blessed with an amazing support system, whether they were coming and just sitting in the house with me, calling me over. I had a lot of people calling me over to come sit and eat dinner and just to hang out. So that helps, like, to keep your life as normal as possible, to still get invited out, to still feel love and to still feel support when going through something major as breast cancer and the treatments. Like, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to hear that everybody rallied around you. But more importantly, that you didn't isolate and you didn't try to keep it to yourself, because again, that is super key to your outcome, as well as just, making people aware. And one of the things that you said was, you don't want someone else to have to go down the same road that you went down if you could speak out. And that resonates with me, just in my own journey of things that I've gone through. That's why I talk out, because number one, the fear of speaking out keeps other people bound. But
Mm,
when we can speak out, that gives credence to the test of our testimonies. So
mm.
that's real powerful. And people don't always think about things in that light. So I want to thank you for sharing your journey. I want to there has to be, when I'm thinking about your current struggle, or your current feeling of not being feminine because of the the breast not being there, there has to be, and I'm going to try to look, but there has to be some solution. I imagine there are. It's just a matter of not having the information. It has to be some solution somewhere.
Yeah, they have so they told me to wait like 2 years to go back to the plastic surgeon to see if, things have changed like health wise for me.
Okay.
Because I had blood clots, I had PA, the heart attack, and then I've been a cardiac patient since 2018. So with all of those things, they're waiting to see like what happens.
Right.
What happens. But they do have like prosthetics. Like I just I, I just haven't decided to wear prosthetics yet.
Well, we're going to pray that your health resolves and there's no
Yes.
more issues. And you
Yes.
can go on and live a healthy, productive life until God says it's time.
That's right.
So,
Absolutely.
thank
Thank you.
you for joining me. Thank you for sharing your story. You can, let me tell you where you can find Nitra, because she does, like she said, hang out on Facebook. You can find her on Facebook at Rose Garden, or you can find her on IG at Rose Garden underscore 24. And she's very vocal. She, as you can see, she don't hold anything back and will tell you or answer anything that you ask her, which is important and special. So I want to thank her for coming.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you for tuning in to another episode of Broken Graciously, where we challenge the culture of brokenness holistically with transparency, candid conversations, and practical tips. Your practical tip today was go do a breast self exam. And number two, advocate for yourself. Those are your practical tips. I will see you next week on episode number 2. Thank you for tuning in to the Breaking Graciously podcast. Stay tuned for weekly episodes. Follow me on IG at Tanisha B. Lester and the number 1. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Blessings.